Hey, good morning. I'm Raleigh Brown. This is another edition of Curve Flattening Concerts. And folks are starting to show up. Steve DeHaas was the first man in on YouTube. And Slim Edelman, Rhonda Scott Merrick, Ann Mintz, Aretta and Ron, Ken Nashif, Warren and Janelle, Rhonda Scott Merrick, Debbie Moore up there in Maine. So let us cloink. Lori Payne is here, I gather, from Rhonda, and Lori is invisible to me. I just have never been able to figure that out. She didn't used to be invisible. So I cloink you with the cloinkophonic mug, a gift from Ann Mintz, in the name of good fellowship and good music. And hopefully a brighter future. So today's concert is a special tribute. It's a little strange. I'll explain it. So when I first started to play the guitar, I wanted to sound like Peter, Paul, and Mary, guitar-wise, not vocal-wise. I knew that was not a likelihood. And I struggled, I got the Folk Singer's Guitar Guide and some basic books that had the beginning tablature, and they had little patterns like, or... And that was fingerpicking, and I knew it was called fingerpicking, but it was not what I wanted, and I couldn't find what I wanted, so... My brother went to Oberlin College in Ohio, and which has a great music department, but he wasn't in the music department. He was an English major, like me. And he was my older brother. So we would go down to visit him from Cleveland. And one time I went, and they had a little music store there. I went into the music store, and there I found this book. And this was Happy's, as far as I know, his first book, Fingerpicking Styles for Guitar. I'm not sure if he had published any books before that. But this book ended up being kind of the holy grail for me. It opened up the door. It explained the simple underpinnings of constant alternate bass, where you keep the bass going and then you add notes, either syncopated notes or notes at the same time. And then it gave you a long list of transcriptions of great traditional guitarists. And that's what got me started on the guitar. And what I'm doing today is I'm going to play songs from this book and from Happy's subsequent book, Contemporary and Traditional Fingerpicking Styles for Guitar, or maybe it's traditional and contemporary. And I'll tell you a little bit about what I can as we go along. And it'll be like that. So I'm not playing a bunch of Happy Traum tunes. I know he wrote some songs, but basically he was a great traditional style guitar player. And when I met with him a couple years, we talked about it a little bit, and we really, I was much younger than him, like 10 years younger than him, 11 maybe. And, our styles were very similar because I was so influenced by him coming up, and we liked the same kind of music, But I had gone on and gotten a little jazzier, and he said, I never just got into that jazz stuff. I just really stuck with traditional music, and he did it well. He did it really well. So I'm going to share my daily Charlie the dog picture. This was taken about 10 minutes ago. He was just listlessly lying there thinking, well, nothing to do until Raleigh gets done with this concert. But I know some of you guys like to see Charlie, so there he is. He's slimming down. He's down to just under 64 pounds. So I'm very proud of him for that. And I wish I was slimming down too, but there you go. So first song up is a Merle Travis song, and for this song I'm wearing a thumb pick, because in the Travis style you want this thumpy bass. You don't want this. You want, and you have to be able to whack the string. My friend Eddie Pennington does this as well or better than anyone else in the world, and you really feel, when you hear him play in person, you feel the thump like a drum of his right hand. So I'm trying to channel a little bit of Eddie while I steal a little from Happy here. So this is 9 Pound Hammer by Merle Travis. This 9-pound hammer, it's a little too heavy, baby, for my size, honey, for my size. I'm going on the mountain, gonna see my baby. Ain't it coming back? Ain't it coming back? Roll on, buddy, don't you roll so slow. How can I roll when the wheels won't go? Oh, roll on, buddy, pull a load of coal. How can I pull when the wheels won't roll? It's a long way to Harlan, it's a long way to Hazard, to get a little brew, just to get a little brew. Now when I'm long gone, you can make my tombstone out of number 9 coal, out of number 9 coal. Roll on, buddy, roll a load of coal. How can I roll when the wheels won't go? Yeah, roll on, buddy, pull a load of coal. How can I pull when the wheels won't roll? 9-Pound Hammer by Merle Travis, and I originally learned that out of Happy Traum's Fingerpicking Styles for Guitar book. That book is still in print, and Happy wrote a second book, Contemporary and Traditional Guitar Fingerpicking Styles, and eventually that got published as both of those books together, which is how you find it now, I think. Still out there, still great tablatures, bunch of great contemporary stuff in the newer version, from the second book, and that's where this one comes from. And you know, so I learned, I must have been 17 maybe when I learned from Happy's book how to fingerpick, and that was the first book, the one I showed you. And then but I had a friend, I had heard Bert Jansch play Angie, and I was baffled and intrigued by it. And I had a friend, which some of you Ohio folks might know, Mike Harris. And Mike and I went to Euclid Senior High together, and we were in the folk music club. He was a year younger than me. And one day in class, he started playing a version of Angie. It wasn't totally, it was a little bit rough, but I got the idea of what it was, and so I went back to the record, figured it out, put the arm on the needle, the needle on the record about 3 million times, and I came up with a version of it. And then the next year, Happy came out with contemporary and traditional guitar fingerpicking styles, and it had Angie in it. And so I said, well, I'm going to at least read what he wrote, even though I have my version. And then I saw all these parts that he got right that I had wrong. So I corrected them all. and that's why to this day you'll hear me play Angie on these live streams a lot of times. So this is Angie, written by Davy Graham. This version is influenced by Bert Jansch, and there's parts of it which I never would have figured out in my youth if it hadn't have been for Happy's book. So that's Angie by Bert Jansch. And Bert Jansch also wore a thumb pick, so I put those two songs together so I wouldn't have to unnecessarily go hunting for my thumb pick. Let me say some hellos here. We have a bunch of people, a good crowd. So it's a very traditional day today, music-wise, because all this stuff is kind of Travis-style fingerpicking, which my hand problems do not make easy. So I'm doing my best for you here. So I said hi to up to David Arthur Radcliffe, Terry St. James, Audrey Bernheimer, Heidi McClure and Jerry from the Minnesota Northwoods. They're usually in Monument, Colorado. Michael Anthony Wood from Southwest Oklahoma. Donna Greenberg in Philadelphia. Rhonda Scott Merrick in Chicago area. Helene Tober Fowler in Michigan. Carol Pred in Mentor, Ohio. Sorry about the Guardians. We blew you out of the water last night, Carol. I was kind of torn who to root for. Kate Petrella is here from Southwest Florida. Slim Edelman we said hi to before, and Warren and Janelle. Michael Tierson from the Collingswood area, if I remember correctly, and I'm probably wrong, but it's South Jersey at least. And Michael says, Happy had a huge impact on my life, especially while I was reviewing profusely for Sing Out while Happy was editing. Yeah, those of us who had personal interchanges with Happy know that his real treasure was who he was as a person. He was just a lovely guy. And I'll talk a little bit more of that maybe after this next tune. So Cindy Glorioso is here, and Sharon March, John Hubner, Dave Fry, up there in Bethlehem. He says, thanks for Happy's legacy. Dave knew Happy really well, too. Mike Verbeck and Pam Zappardino and Deb Leby Clark and Dave Mason in Scotland and Rita Rubin Long up in Maine, my dear friend from Kent State, and Charlotte Cantrell out there in Southern California. And Dave Fry says, Happy and Artie concert in early 70s while at Lehigh changed my life. Well, he changed a lot of our lives. And Mike Stillman is here in Joshua Tree, Linda Worster in Western Mass, Karen Beatty says, I met Happy in a village coffee shop once. He was very friendly and asked me to sit and talk about the 60s. Karen lived the 60s big time. And like that, Rich Fowler is here in Michigan, Charlie Bryant down there in Montgomery County, Maryland, and Michael Miller in North Carolina, and Nancy Daynard up there in Schoharie County, and in New York, and Terry St. James I said hi to. Melissa Collard out there in California, and Melissa is a wonderful jazz singer and guitarist. You should hear her if you haven't. And Reuben Musgrave, my good buddy down there in the Richmond, Virginia area. Jeanette Hubner's here, quite a crowd. David Long, who I see at the park with our dogs, who we keep apart for safety's sake. And that's a Charlie thing. And Debbie Daniels is here. We're getting there. Kate Mack and Melissa says, what maker and model is this beautiful guitar? This is made by the Pre-War Guitars Company of Hillsborough, North Carolina. It's modeled after a guitar that Martin never made, a 14-fret, early 30s 0028. But it's a terrific guitar. A bloke from England is here, and I think I said hi to most of the rest of you. Rusty Luthi down there in North Carolina. He says, but it's not a triple O, it's a double O, Rusty. And Keith Shaw is here, and I know I'm going on, but you guys are my peeps. Bunny Barnes is here. Bunny, I hope you're hanging in there. We're all thinking about you. And Pam Zappardino and Bernd Bookman. Hi, Bernd. And like that. Okay, so I'm going to have another little bit of coffee. And we'll do another tune. So one of the first complete tunes in Happy's first book was Mississippi John Hurt's Spike Driver's Blues. And I don't know if I'd ever, I might have heard the name Mississippi John Hurt, but had never heard him until I saw this book. So this is where I learned about him. And eventually, of course, I got records and learned some of his stuff. So this is the Spike Driver's Blues. This is the hammer that killed John Henry. Won't kill me, no, won't kill me. This is the hammer that killed John Henry. Won't kill me. And we're going to move this capo up here where I get into my vocal range a little better. John Henry left this hammer lying here, side of the road, side of the road. John Henry left this hammer lying here, all covered with blood. Take this hammer and carry it to the captain. Tell him I'm gone. You tell him I'm gone. You tell him I'm gone. And if that captain, he asks you, was I running? You tell him I was flying. Tell him I was flying. If that captain, he asks you, was I running? You tell him I was flying. Now it's a long ways from East Colorado to my home, to my home. It's a long way from East Colorado to my home. I'm going back to that red clay country. That's my home. That's my home. Going back to that red clay country. That's my home. This is the hammer that killed John Henry. It won't kill me. No, won't kill me. This is the hammer that killed John Henry. Won't kill me. The Spike Drivers Blues from Mississippi John Hurt, and as I said, I learned that tune out of Happy Traum's first fingerpicking for styles for guitar book. I see we have Eben Atwater here, and I think Bunny is telling us that Stephen has transitioned to whatever comes after our life here on Earth. And Bunny, my heart goes out to you. I have been where you are. So I send my love, and we hope for the least suffering possible for all concerned. So it's announcement time. There is a PayPal link here if you would like to donate to the cause. Venmo and PayPal, that's always up all through the concert. You can copy it down and send some money for Charlie's dog treats or his dog sitting or his veterinary medications. he's the main bane of my life economically. And there are invisibles. Lori Payne is here, but she's invisible. Her sister Kit Serikaku is probably not here because she's on Oahu and it's early there. Judith Fox, my friend from Reston, Virginia, and Joel Biget over in France, and Mario Prue up in Canada, and there's one more. Who am I forgetting? George Young down in Winter Park, Florida. And any other invisibles, I'm sorry, I don't know about you being here, and that's that. Okay, so on the agenda for me, I will be, for those in the Philly area, or even if you travel to a big folk festival, I will be at the Philadelphia Folk Festival, August 16th through 18th. Each of those days I will be in the culture tent, because I've got a lot of culture, and I'll be teaching guitar classes for the festival and for the Martin Guitar Company. And like that. And then in October, on October 5th, I will be at the home of our own Ann Mintz and Clifford Wagner doing my annual house concert there. And if you're interested in that, you can email Ann at annmintz@mindspring.com and get your name on the reservation list. It does tend to fill up, which is very flattering for me. And like that, I am on now. I don't know who's on Monday. Some of you will tell us. Cozy is on the road this month, so she said she'll be back in August. And then I'll be back on Wednesday at 3 for one of my regular concerts. Okay. So here's another one. I had first heard this song on an album called, it's like Folk Songs of the Southern Appalachians or something like that. It's Etta Baker, and it's The Bully of the Town. And Happy transcribed it and put it in one of his books. I forget which one, because I think there are Etta Baker tunes in each book. But The Bully of the Town. So, The Bully of the Town by Etta Baker. And so my story with Happy is that I had those books and I knew about him, and all these years went by. And then along came, after I won the National Guitar Championships, Dave Fry hired me to open for Happy Traum at Godfrey Daniels Coffee House. And for me, it did not go that well. I was a little bit, not intentionally, but I was a little bit of a guitar slinger back then. And opening for Happy, I don't think he was real happy with having another virtuoso guitarist open for him. So Happy wasn't happy. And, he was polite, but not very friendly to me. And I kind of understood why afterwards. And then years went by, and I still honored his contribution to my life. And then Facebook came along, and I wrote a thing on my blog. I have a blog called raleighguitar.wordpress.com, and I rarely write anything anymore. But when I look back at it, there's a lot of stuff there. So I wrote a thing on it and shared it on Facebook about how aging has affected my guitar playing. And Happy dropped me a note about it and said, I really appreciated you writing that, because obviously he was aging too. Although I don't think he suffered as much from hand stuff as I do. But after that, we kind of stayed in touch and exchanged occasional comments. We both were of a similar political bent, and he came out of the social justice movement in the 60s, and one of his early groups was the first group to record Blowin' in the Wind and the first group to record Don't Think Twice, It's All Right. So he was friends with the young Bob Dylan, and in fact, probably Dylan, it was more of a mentor-student relationship. Dylan was younger, and by about 5 years, I think. And Happy said that Dylan would, go around the village and come and hear him play whenever he could. So anyhow, we were of a similar political bent, and eventually I said, I'd love to come up there and buy you lunch someday. And then the pandemic hit. So that didn't happen. And during the pandemic, we both played on the Greenwich Village Folk Festival's live stream, and we talked after that, and I played the song which I've written for those of you who are my regulars here, called Moments of Grace, and Happy complimented me on it and said, that was really a touching, heartbreaking song. And then finally I was going up after the vaccines came out, and I was getting out into the world again. I was going up that way, and I contacted him and said, can I buy you lunch? And he said, well, we're not going out for lunch yet. But he said you could come visit, So I bought a big strawberry rhubarb pie up in Schoharie area, where I was staying with Magpie and Nancy and Matt Daynard, and I brought it down, and we just had a lovely day together, and just probably the morning and the early part of the afternoon, and just sat in his beautiful house. And he had just gotten these two Happy Traum model Santa Cruz guitars. I think one was mahogany and one was rosewood, but they were two different tone woods. And he said, let me get these out and let's play them back and forth. And so we sat there and played guitars for a while. It was really lovely. And Jane was also just a wonderful hostess, and we had a really good time. And at some point, Happy said to me, I'm going to ask you a kind of strange question. And I said, okay. And he said, you don't happen to play table tennis, do you? And so I said, well, yeah, I used to play quite a bit of table tennis, because in New Hope we used to have a weekend gathering that played table tennis. And he said, well, we belong to a club, but we haven't been able to go because of the pandemic. And we have, at Homespun Tapes, in the warehouse that used to be full of DVDs and stuff like that. They're all online now. It's all streamed. So we had this big room, so we turned it into a ping pong, a table tennis stadium. So we drove over there at the end of the afternoon, and like I said, Happy. I think Jane. I don't know how old Jane is, but I'm sure they were together for so many years. They had to be pretty close in age, and they both just kicked my butt at table tennis. And before it was over, like Happy was teaching, he was like, no, don't hit it that way. You got to practice swinging over the ball. And because I was like just chopping it in an effort to keep it on the table. But it was it was a really terrific day, and I will never forget hanging out with him and Jane in that way. And they were just wonderful. And I'm for me, having lost Janice after 37 years, and I felt like we had a really great relationship. And it's just so obvious that Happy and Jane had such a beautiful relationship for 60 years, 65 years, 70 years. I don't know exactly how long. But my heart just goes out to Jane, and just as it does with Bunny here today. The loss is really difficult, and you just have to go on and try and find some joy in your life. I hope Jane is able to do that, and I'm trusting that Bunny will be able to do that, because her cap is set for the guitar, and that's a great thing. So I have a couple more for you here. This one is the Fishin' Blues. Now, Happy transcribed two versions of this tune, one by my old friend Mark Silber, and the other by Mike Seeger. And I always loved walking bass, and Mark's version had this walking bass line. Like that, and so that's the one I learned. Probably, I listened earlier to Mike Seeger's version, and it was pretty cool. So maybe I'll go back and learn that one too. And I dug up, like I had originally heard this song by the Lovin' Spoonful, John Sebastian, and so I dug up the real words. It was written by Henry Thomas, who was, I guess, an East Texas blues player. So let's see what we can do with it. Let's see if I can read the words fast enough for you. I went down the hill about 12 o'clock. I reached right back and I got me a pole. Went to the hardware and got me a hook. Attached that line right on that hook. I'm a-going fishing all of the time. You can come a-fishing too. Bet your life and your loving wife I can catch more fish than you. Well, any fish will bite if you got good bait. Here's a little something I would like to relate. Any fish will bite if you got good bait. So I'm a-going fishing anytime you're wishing. You can come a-fishing too. I looked down the river about 1 o'clock. I spied them catfish swimming around. I got so hungry, didn't know what to do. I'm gonna get me a catfish too. Well, mama's going fishing all of the time. You can come a fishing too. Bet your life and your loving wife catch more fish than you. Well, any fish will bite if you got good bait. Here's a little something I would like to relate. Any fish will bite if you got good bait. So I'm a going fishing anytime you're wishing. You can come a fishing too. Put on your skillet, never mind your lead. Mama's gonna cook 'em with shortening bread. I'm a going fishing all of the time. You can come a fishing too. You bet your life and your loving wife catch more fish than you. Well, any fish will bite if you got good bait. Here's a little something I would like to relate. Any fish will bite if you got good bait. And you can come a fishing anytime you're wishing. You can come a fishing too. The Fishin' Blues, written by Henry Thomas, and Melissa Collard says she first heard it by Taj Mahal, and he did a very widely covered version of it too. Yeah, and he's no slouch, that boy, that man. Pardon me. So I have one more for you, and this one was one of the hardest ones in Happy's first book. And I just thought of this. I hadn't thought of it for a while, but one time I did it on a live concert here, and Happy wrote me a note and said, like, you know, geez, you did the St. Louis Tickle live, man. You're braver than me. So another bit of flattery from the master there. And this is an arrangement by the wonderful Dave Van Ronk, who is another friend of Happy's, of course. And I've changed it around a little because Dave Van Ronk's hands were appreciably larger than mine. But basically, it's his version. So this is the St. Louis Tickle as transcribed by Happy Traum. St. Louis Tickle by Dave Van Ronk, or transcribed by Dave Van Ronk, arranged by Dave Van Ronk, transcribed by Happy Traum. And that brings us to a close. Somebody asked me online Doug, my good friend Doug Tanner, asked where Happy got the nickname Happy. And in the New York Times obit on him, it said he had it from infancy. He was happy from infancy. And that may be the truth. I see Bill Rubenstein is here, some other people who I had not said hi to. I'm not sure who else I missed. I'm going to assume I got most of you. And I'm glad to have just been able to shed a little more light, whatever little light I can, on his memory. He was just a wonderful, wonderful guy, and will be sorely missed in this world. And it's probably no coincidence that the mantra starts like this. Be happy, be healthy, be brave and be calm, be kind, it's a snap, and if you get cranky, take a nap. Have a good beginning of the week. I'll hope to see you on Wednesday. If I don't see you on Wednesday, have a good end of the week as well. My love goes out to you all, and my sincere condolences go out to Bunny Barnes and to Jane Traum. Bye-bye.